Hello, everyone. It is a beautiful March 21st. It is a Tuesday. It's actually warm outside here in Steubenville, Ohio, where I am recording from my dorm room. Chus, with his mullet, is in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I saw this on Good Morning Football, and they got into a big argument, so I'm just going to bring it up right off the bat before we get into news, start talking trades and stuff that has happened. Who are your top 5 AFC quarterbacks? I have mine written down on this Post-it note. I have not shown Chus. He does not know, but
No, I don't. And in fact, I wasn't able to mentally prepare for this as much as he was, but I kind of have an idea in my head of what I'm doing for this. Are we going based off of like stats, playoff appearance? Like how are you coordinating all of your stuff?
I'm going to go going into this season. Who do we think are our top 5?
Top 5. I would probably what?
And I'm assuming Rodgers to the Jets, and I'm assuming Lamar stays with the Ravens.
Okay. Well,
right now,
in my head, I wasn't going to put Lamar or Aaron Rodgers just because it's unknown, really.
Okay.
Because as of right now, I read something that, the Green Bay and Jets trade is still being stalled because Green Bay wants a lot, for the Jets. It's a weird thing. I mean, it's conflicting reports, you never know. But do you want me to start 5-1 or 1-5?
Go 5-1. Go 5-1.
All right. Actually, it'd probably be easier if I went 1-5, but I'll go 5-1. Arguably, if I move Rodgers and Lamar out of it, I think 5, and it might be controversial just depending on how much he's won. I think Justin Herbert would be a good solid number 5. Just because I know that he might be considered a little overrated at times, but I think he's a solid quarterback. And I mean, I feel like in some aspects, he's definitely brought the Chargers a little bit around, obviously not clutching up entirely, but I think that, he's been pretty solid. I'm trying to think of a 4th because, I have my top 3 already on the top of my head, but I got to throw in a 4th right there. If I wanted to count Lamar, I would put Lamar at probably 4, but I'm trying to look at the teams. I'm looking at the teams right now, just trying to think of them off the top of my head.
Kenny Pickett.
No, I was gonna put. I don't think we've seen it. I was gonna put for 4. Well, I was gonna put for 4 either. I thought about putting Tua, just because I feel like that's another player that kind of, has been molding, but he also has been hurt a lot, and it's kind of hard to really tell with him. But I'm just gonna put Herbert and Tua, but my top 3 would be just based off a lot. It would be people might be mad, but I'm gonna go Allen, Burrow, Mahomes.
Okay, so who do you think I have at the number 1?
I know you put Joe Burrow, but it's definitely not Joe Burrow.
So actually, you clearly have not been on Twitter. We've been talking about this on Twitter a little bit, and I made some Bengals fans mad. I have, Mahomes number 1, Burrow's number 2, Allen. And like I said, I assumed Lamar with the Ravens because we haven't really seen anything with that. Then I've got Aaron Rodgers number 5. And I think that this is one of the more controversial ones. I think a lot of people would agree with you that Herbert should be up there because of Aaron Rodgers' age. The reason I put Aaron Rodgers is he's been, in the last 3 seasons, he's been MVP twice. And last season, he lost his number 1 receiver, Devontae Adams. He went over to Las Vegas. Aaron was working with some young guys that he didn't necessarily have chemistry with. Well, you know what? He's heading over to New York now, presumably. He's going to have Alan Lazard, who he's worked with in the past. He's got Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson was already breaking records as a rookie. He may have Elijah Moore, but I would personally put Elijah Moore in the trade to the Packers because Elijah Moore wanted to get traded anyway. But that doesn't matter. Their wide receiver room is deep. CJ Uzama has also been useful with the Bengals. He wasn't a big threat last year at the tight end position. but I think him and Conklin will be helpful for Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the first 4,000-yard passer that the Jets have had since Joe Namath, and so that's why I'm putting him at that 5 position. I really am excited to see the Aaron Rodgers-Garrett Wilson connection. I know a lot of people don't like Mr. Aaron Rodgers because of his political views or whatever, but that's not going to stop him on the field. That's not going to change what he does with these young guys.
I mean, it's one of those things where just like putting this out there for anybody that's an NFL fan or getting into it or whatever, I think that in some aspects you kind of have to just put aside your differences. If you don't like a person, whether it's for political reasons or if they did something controversial in their past and it came out, but the NFL's still letting them play, depending on how controversial it is, that is. But like there have been a lot of things where people have been very upset about certain players and stuff coming back to the NFL or still playing under certain investigations and stuff. And I mean, a lot of people, do not like Deshaun Watson. And although Deshaun Watson hasn't done a whole lot, sometimes you have to look past who they are as a person and have to look at them as a player, because because like with Antonio Brown being in Tampa for a little bit, and when he was in New England and when he was around and stuff, like it was hard for everyone to be like take him seriously because of how much BS he had been going through with the Steelers and then getting traded to the Raiders and saying he has like cold sores or whatever it was. He had something wrong with him. I don't remember what the heck was going on, but like it was just, it's one of those things where sometimes you have to just like look past all of that and look at them as a player. I mean, it's hard depending on the player because, everyone's going to look at Deshaun Watson as the massage dude and all of that, but it will be difficult. But with Aaron Rodgers specifically, I mean, I think you should look away from the political views and look more towards him as a player, not as a person. I feel like a lot of people struggle with that just in sports in general. So
for sure, but I mean, there's a difference between what Deshaun Watson did allegedly, I think it's still alleged, and what Aaron Rodgers did. Aaron Rodgers just said stuff that people agreed with politically. He didn't do necessarily anything criminal or immoral.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. But I mean, like the NFL has given so many people, second chances and stuff. It's kind of one of those things where you kind of almost have to put things aside at points because they're still a player. And granted, you don't have to support them as a player, but if it's bad, but like I don't support Deshaun Watson and all of that. I mean, granted, it is allegedly. I mean, I'm pretty sure they settled out of court, all of that stuff. I'm pretty sure it was all settled out of court. But it's one of those things where if Deshaun Watson next season ended up bringing the Browns to, the playoffs, would his track record get him, would he get any notoriety just because he, the Browns are back in the playoffs? Or would it be a lot of, the Browns made it back in the playoffs, but this guy's a rapist type thing? Like, would they give him that second chance? Or, I mean, I don't think in an aspect, I think it's hard to give him a second chance when there were so many allegeds. But I mean, and the NFL was given second chances so many times. I mean, Michael Vick came back. I mentioned that before. Michael Vick came back and played ball for the Steelers for a season. I mean, Colin Kaepernick had tryouts and stuff, and he was considered politically controversial. But the difference between him and everything else is I don't think Colin Kaepernick was ever a really good quarterback. I think he was decent.
You saying Colin?
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick.
You said Colin.
Sorry, Colin. Is it Colin? Colin
it's
Kaepernick.
Colin. Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick. Yeah.
Get his name right.
Sorry, but either way, I thought he was decent, but I never thought that he was on some sort of like incredible level. I mean, he had a lot of really down years with San Francisco, so I think they wanted.
He also went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he didn't win that Super Bowl. So, I mean, you could also be like, oh yeah, what's the guy's name? You could think of like all of these players in a time where they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, Steelers player. Oh yeah, Neil O'Donnell. There you go. Neil O'Donnell went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Cowboys, and then he ended up signing, I'm pretty sure, a big contract with the Jets. And didn't do anything else for the rest of his life. So I mean, like, yeah, he went to a Super Bowl, but what did that? I mean, he was average. I'm pretty, like, in my opinion, I thought he was like watching his film back in the 90s. I thought he was good, but I didn't think he was like extraordinary, like extraordinary, you know.
Hey, Neil O'Donnell is still alive. He's 56 years old. He might come back. He might come out and do something. You said he didn't do anything else for the rest of his life?
I'm saying he didn't do anything for the rest of his.
He's got a lot of life ahead of him.
Well, I hope that he does do stuff for the rest of his life, but I don't think he did anything as a player much after that. But I mean, I think you got to give some I think they need to put their differences aside with Aaron Rodgers, with agreeing with that. If Twitter's going to get mad at you for that, I feel like that's stupid. Like
Twitter is going to get mad at me. Twitter's going to get mad at me for a lot of things.
Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game. And Aaron Rodgers has mad game, and he's really good at the game. And the player, he should not be hating the player. You know,
Twitter will stay mad at people even after they make up. Like Brett Coleman, who is he's a YouTuber called The Film Room, and he posted something, tagged Pat McAfee in it. Pat McAfee misunderstood what it was, so he responded in a negative way. Brett responded in a negative way. They were kind of bashing at each other. Their fan bases went at each other. I like both guys. Brett's a really cool dude. I really like Pat McAfee. Pat had Brett on Pat's show. They talked about it. They each gave both sides, and they didn't necessarily come to like oh yeah, I love you guys forever. You're my new favorite person, but it definitely came to I understand where you're coming from now perspective. But people on Twitter are still mad about it. They're like, oh, no.
Okay,
so, I mean,
and also, I just want to also put an emphasis that I don't condone anything that any of these players have ever done in their past. I don't want people to be like, oh, he's condoning Deshaun Watson for being a rapist or whatever, or alleged rapist. Like, I'm not condoning that. I just think sometimes, like, that was maybe an extreme term, but I think sometimes the Twitter and other people need to look past the person and look more towards the game. So
my top 5 may have to change here. I'm on Twitter, as I always am, because free agency, you never know what's going to happen. And we're going to talk about some of the free agent signings that happened over the weekend. But I just saw a post per Mike Florio, Lamar Jackson is ready to move on from the Ravens, and another source told him that Lamar does not want a fully guaranteed contract anymore.
Well,
so maybe wonder what's going to happen. Interesting. I know some Colts some Colts fans are maybe interested in having him. Maybe he becomes the starter, and Gardner won't be starting on a $5 million a year contract. Or maybe they won't have to draft a quarterback then. But
it really depends on where. I mean, Lamar could he could go to a different places, but maybe I was reading something because I looked up. It was pretty interesting. Mason Rudolph is like done in Pittsburgh. You know, I'm pretty sure he, according to records, has just sold his house in the area. So I'm pretty sure he's moving on. But I looked up Mason Rudolph on Google to see if any teams were interested in even getting him on like a practice squad type thing. And I scrolled to the bottom, so obviously there wasn't any interest. But there was an article from like a couple days ago that mentioned the Cardinals and their quarterback situation. Now, granted, they have Kyler Murray already. But what if they had, maybe they have a little bit of a competition in Arizona. I mean, I don't know if they have enough cap space for that, but it would be pretty interesting to have Lamar and Kyler Murray. You could have Lamar Jackson as a running back at that point. So I think that would be a pretty. I mean, that's what our boy Wesley already does on Madden. He puts Lamar Jackson on a running back anyway. So what does it matter if they do it in the real world?
So, Joe, we're going to be going on Joe's show, Joe Camo's show, The Cardinal Rule, where he talks Arizona Cardinals sports and draft analysis and such. And we're going to make a mock draft for the Cardinals. So I've been practicing because I'm not going to beat Joe as far as my mock draft, but I can beat you. That is my goal, to beat your mock draft.
For what, Arizona, for Cardinals?
Yeah, because we got to go on March 27th.
Yeah,
we're going
I know.
on.
But okay, buddy.
And
I'm
going to beat you. And Joe, there have been some late round drafts where they've taken a quarterback in the late round, and maybe I'll do that. Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe I'll take.
Take Stetson Bennett.
No, third overall, I'm taking. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson just for you.
Bad pick.
But speaking of drafting quarterbacks, the team with the number 1 overall pick, who we expected to draft a quarterback, they have Andy Dalton right now, but they're still expected to draft a quarterback. They've been making moves. They've got Von Bell. They've got Andy Dalton. We've been talking about in past episodes which guys they've got. Carolina Panthers, they just made another big move. Adam Thielen, who has been a touchdown machine. I believe last season he had more touchdowns than wide receivers such as Stephon Diggs. So this is a big move for the Carolina Panthers. Adam Thielen, he went on Pat McAfee, and he said, I think we can win a Super Bowl with Carolina. Which, granted, he's kind of got to say that. But do you think that's reasonable this year?
Not this year, I don't think.
No? I think next year?
Potentially. I mean, it really depends on who they draft at quarterback and how well he looks this year and goes into next season. I mean, when they first drafted Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, I mean, you kind of just assumed that Jacksonville wasn't going to do good that year. And I don't think they did anything at all. I think they maybe had like 2 or 3 wins that season when Trevor Lawrence was a rookie.
Well, that's because Urban Meyer was.
Well, yeah, but
crap.
Nonetheless, I mean, he still wasn't doing anything. I mean, regardless of if Urban Meyer was fired or not, I mean, nothing changed. The team didn't do anything. And then, yes, they got in Doug Peterson and stuff. And even at the beginning of the season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I didn't think looked all that good. They didn't just start getting good until the end of the season when they just started winning games all of a sudden. It was when Trevor Lawrence all of a sudden just started coming out of nowhere and like hot. Like, and next thing you know, they're getting blown out and he comes back and beats the Chargers. Like, it's crazy. And then they kept it close, pretty close with the Chiefs too. I mean, it wasn't like that game was anywhere close to a blowout. I mean, they were only down by like 10 points, by the end of the game. So it's one of those things where, I mean, that second season, a lot of people were like, I don't know about Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence not looking that good, blah, 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 blah. And then next thing you know, like, I think they might've been like 5-8 and then they won their like last however many games or whatever it was. 4. Yeah.
They went 9-8, made it to the playoffs, won the AFC South. Doug Peterson, phenomenal coach. Trevor Lawrence is kind of starting to look like what he was. Trevor Lawrence was another guy who was kind of unfairly ranked, though. Like everyone said he was going to be like this generational talent, best quarterback since Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning type player who was just going to step onto the field and immediately be great. What a lot of people forget about Peyton Manning, his rookie year, he sucked. Like, yeah, he was terrible. He led the league in interceptions, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I feel like they don't give him a fair ranking, and no matter who Carolina gets, whether it's Stroud, Young, Richardson, whoever it is that they decide that they want to go with, or if they decide to go with some random quarterback first overall, and they're like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to go with Stetson Bennett, even though he's ranked in the 6th or 7th round. We're going to go with Stetson Bennett because he was a double back-to-back national champion. And like, if they want to go with him, like whoever they go with, it really will depend on how they play this season. And if they play really great this season, like if they end up like leading, Carolina to the playoffs, maybe losing in the wild card to whoever the top team is this year, let's just say it is San Francisco in 2nd place. San Francisco beats, Carolina. Like it might be a stepping stone, kind of like how Philly was when Philly went into the wild card spot back in 2022, I guess, against Tampa Bay. It was like 38-17 final or 40. It was, I mean, Tampa Bay beat them pretty badly, but I'm pretty sure it was Jalen Hurts' like rookie season. They went in and they just made it in the wild card, and then the year after they made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, they had a lot of key players working together, and everything worked out for the Philadelphia Eagles, other than winning the Super Bowl. But I mean, it just really depends. I don't think it'll be this year for Carolina, but I do think depending on how good this quarterback is, there is a lot of room for the future, maybe going into next season. But it just really depends on if they go 9-8 or if they go 2-15. And then start lighting it up midway through the season next year, like Trevor Lawrence did. So
I would like to correct myself. I'm gonna
use the soundboard. Yeah.
I don't know where I pulled this stat from about him leading the league. I just double checked. That's why that ad popped up that you heard. I wasn't able to pause it quick enough. Did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Oh, well, maybe it's on my end. I don't know. I'm sorry if there was also a really loud ad at some point, listeners.
We're not sponsored by whatever ad that just played. Just
no,
so
we
you
are
know.
not. No. But he has 55 touchdowns in his career since 2014. So I don't know where I got the stat that he had 36. I don't know what that's counting. Maybe that's since 2020 because he has 36 since. No, he does. I don't know what they were talking about. Anyway, just scratch that. I think it's still a good pickup for the Carolina Panthers, though. I don't know what I'm talking about, though, as far as touchdowns go. So, what do you think, and I know you'd hate this, you'd probably be screaming at your TV and wishing the worst for him because you're toxic. What if the Carolina Panthers do take Anthony Richardson with the number 1 overall draft pick?
I mean, in all honesty, I just think it would just take them a lot longer to develop him as a quarterback. Just because I feel like a lot of these quarterbacks aren't as coming out in their coming out at 2021 anymore. A lot of them are coming out at 22. It's very rare to see a quarterback that played his freshman and sophomore year going in first overall his junior year. I mean, it happens, but I mean, over the last couple of years, we haven't really seen that. I mean, Joe Burrow lit up his last year. Kenny Pickett blew up his last year. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that haven't really done a whole lot until, it's just interesting because I think his team, he didn't do a whole, he did enough for his team. I mean, they had some difficult games and stuff that they played, but I feel like him as a player, I think he should have taken the extra year to go maybe one more year doing some college ball and just to really see, because I mean, his numbers don't look that great on paper. I mean, he could be really good. He could be a sleeper, but it's one of those things where it's a really risky pick for somebody that's only going to be a junior. I might yell at my TV about that because I think Carolina might be making a bad move there, but I hope that it works out for them because, obviously, I mean, I don't think Anthony Richardson is horrible. The reason I called him a bum was just because he's too young. I think that he hasn't shown a lot of, potential. It's not like in his second year as a sophomore, he threw 60 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and went on to the national championship. He threw, I think, maybe 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, and I mean, he had good yardage, but it's one of those things where it's tough to predict. Then you get a Kenny Pickett who threw 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions his final season. And then you have Joe Burrow who didn't do a whole lot. And then all of a sudden his final season, he had, you might know better than I do. He had definitely had over 60 touchdowns. He had less than 10 interceptions and then won the Natty.
I know he won the Natty. Let me see what his.
I mean, he only played two seasons. I mean, he played 4 seasons, but he was with Ohio State and didn't do anything. And then
he sat behind Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, and then he transferred to LSU where he blew up. So it's one of those things where, I mean, it just happens, And it was his last year.
In his, he was a 5th-year senior. His senior year, he threw 60 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, like you said. Mm-hmm. Before that, his junior year, which was also at LSU, he had 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So,
yeah, but that's the thing. If Joe Burrow would have declared draft that year, his stock probably would have went 4th, 5th round. He might have really developed. Later on, it might have took him a couple years, but it's kind of those things where it's if he would have gotten drafted and if let's say the Bengals would have drafted him in the 3rd or 4th round and then they put him in. The thing with Joe is it might have taken him a lot longer to develop because he had only played 3 years of college ball compared to that extra year. Mm-hmm. It's weird because it's almost like that extra year that you take before you declare draft, no matter where you are, sometimes is a very make or break thing. And it's interesting to think about because Kenny Pickett probably would have been a really solid 4th or 5th round draft pick. But then he took that extra year, his super senior year, because of the COVID year and stuff like that. Next thing you know, he's, considered one of the top quarterbacks in this weird draft year. And I mean, he shows a lot of promise. I mean, I think Anthony Richardson could be very promising, but I just don't think, there's 2 quarterbacks that are on the board right now that are sitting right in front of them that could go somewhere in the top 5 picks, which is Stroud and Young. I don't know why you would not do that, because Stroud and Young have shown a lot more promise than Richardson. Young has done a lot more. I would go with Bryce Young personally, but I mean, it's not my pick. I just think that, Anthony Richardson might be a too much of a big jump for someone that's so young.
So, I mean, I think you make a really good point, because I pulled up Kenny Pickett's stats as well, and we said Joe went 60 touchdowns and 6 interceptions from his 16-5 season. Kenny Pickett in 2020 went 13-9 touchdown to interception. That was as a senior. Then as a fifth-year senior, he went 42-7. So that's a huge jump. As a sophomore, and he's a third-year sophomore, because he was redshirted his freshman year. It looks like Anthony Richardson was. It looks like, and granted, it's Florida. It's not a huge football school like Alabama or LSU, but Pitt isn't really either. I'd say Pitt and Florida are kind of on the same. Florida's probably a little bit bigger, but
I would say right now, yes, just because, at one point Florida did have Tim Tebow and then Aaron Hernandez and all of that, and then they were a legendary team way back then. Once again, good team. Don't condone Aaron Hernandez, but he was a great player for the Florida Gators during his time.
And Urban Meyer was their coach.
Exactly. And this is all the points that I was making earlier. It's like, it was a good team. Think about the game, not the players. So that was the big point I was making. But it was a solid team. Florida was really good. And then way back in the 20th century, 80, with Dan Marino and stuff, during that era, Pitt, Pitt was a dog. They were dogs.
For sure.
So, but now, Pitt's not as 2021 when Kenny Pickett did that, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That was the first time Pitt had such an amazing season in a very long time. It had been a very long time. So it was a very special year. And that's why, and I think Florida, this is the same way. It was they had that really special year, and then they haven't really fallen into that same position. But I think Florida has all the potential to be really good for a season or two. But I think Anthony Richardson should have given it a chance.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe no one takes him. Maybe
I think he will get drafted. I just don't think he'll get drafted as early as Carolina wants him.
He looks anxious when he throws. He gets flustered easily from what I've watched of him.
And
that's only going to increase in the NFL.
And that shows bad confidence, and that's not something you want to look at. That's something that those are things that you tweak out whenever you are in college. If Anthony Richardson would have declared draft, he probably would have started for Florida again. But the thing is he probably, maybe he's a little, nervous and stuff, but as he gets his feet more, his feet wet more, all of a sudden he goes from, shaking his hands to all of a sudden being it was crazy. You would, I said before, the reason Kenny Pickett just amazes me is just because I went and watched him 5 years at Pitt. I mean, the one season he didn't really start a whole lot, but you watch him, comparing him to his his senior year that you said 13-9, the 13-9. And then you look at his senior year and just compare it. Kenny Pickett just looked so confident his super senior year that it was actually absurd. He literally, he would stand there and granted, we didn't have a great ACC that year. When we played Clemson, they weren't that good, and it was just a whole thing. But next thing you know, Clemson's rushing Kenny, they're doing a blitz almost. It's a third or fourth down. Kenny Pickett just goes and just lobs it up just to Jordan Addison for a touchdown. It was beautiful. He just looked comfortable. He didn't scramble. He didn't leave. He just stayed and just went. And it was just beautiful. I mean, the play might have been a little different than how I'm remembering it in my head, but it just, he didn't move that much, and he just kind of just lobbed it up, and it was a touchdown, and it was beautiful. And it's one of those things where you could tell he was much more confident in his last year than it was his first couple of seasons. He was doing a lot of scrambling, and I mean, he's doing a lot of scrambling now with the Steelers, but I think with time, I think he can really develop, and I think a lot could happen for Richardson, but I just think it's a little too premature for him to jump in.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Panthers. I'm looking at the Panthers schedule, and there's not really a team on here that has a huge pass rush. There's some teams that, I mean, they have good players. The Lions have Aiden Hutchinson. The only team that is really a threat at the pass rush is the Dallas Cowboys with Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe you could get away with starting him, but I think I agree with you that he should maybe wait. I get you're excited to get in the NFL, but if you're getting anxious already playing with college guys your own age. The Myles Garrett types of the world, the superhumans, the TJ Watts, they're gonna chase you out of the stadium, I would think. But we'll see what happens. Best of luck to Anthony Richardson. I do want to move on to, we had some big names get signed this weekend, and the Steelers did nothing, which made me happy. I have to throw that out there for you every so often.
Yeah, but what did the Bengals do? What was so important?
We missed out on these deals. That's what we did.
Yeah.
So some names that we thought were going to get very quickly signed were C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And it was, where is C.J. Gardner-Johnson going to go? Is he going to stay with the Eagles, run it back another year? Is he going to go to a different team? Bengals may have been in, maybe not. I don't know. Bengals ended up signing Nick Scott from the Rams, so it was like, okay, they're probably out on the C.J. Gardner-Johnson race. He probably wants a ton of money, right? That's what we're all thinking. No. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he 1-year contract with a maximum value of $8 million. I was like, I saw that. I was like, what? We could have paid that. We could have. Oh, come on. With the money we saved on Orlando Brown, I love C.J. The thing is that a lot of people have brought up, though, is maybe his personality and temperament didn't necessarily mesh with the locker room and what the Cincinnati Bengals are trying to build.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the defensive talent, and you've seen C.J. Gardner-Johnson because you've gone to the Eagles games. He played for the Eagles last year. Do you think his talent versus, like, say, his personality, and obviously neither of us know C.J. Gardner-Johnson, what do you think it's worth? His skill is worth battling with his personality, and do you think this is a good deal for the Detroit Lions?
I mean, like I said, I've seen him play, and it's one of those things where it's not necessarily like, I don't do like my research on Eagles news and stuff, so I don't know how C.J. Gardner-Johnson looks in the locker room and what the rumors are going on about him 95% of the time. But I mean, I think he's a very talented player, and if he has personality troubles and maybe he's not meshing with the locker room, I mean, teams have already done that before. I mean, people were talking, like the LA Rams, like when they brought in Odell Beckham, like a lot of people had controversy with that because they said Odell Beckham was hard to work with in the locker room and all that, blah, 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 blah. Like, so they brought in Odell Beckham, and I mean, I think he did fine. I mean, it was only for half a season or whatever he was when he got signed. I don't remember if it was a full year or what, but I know he got hurt in the postseason or towards the end of the postseason. And I think for this, I mean, it's kind of interesting, though, because you said it's a 1-year deal, right?
Mm-hmm. 1 year.
It almost seems like, after Detroit, had a really decent season this year, it's almost like Detroit's trying really hard this season to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, I feel like it's weird because, like, I don't think they have, like, the talent just yet to make a deep run unless they get hot at the right minute. Like, if they go 10-7 and then go in and just happen to beat teams, like, just in that moment, like, I think that there could be a lot going for them there. But it's just interesting to me because, signing a 1-year deal for somebody like as talented as C.J. Gardner-Johnson is, just for like a year when any team could have done that, like maybe there was a lot of personality issues, but it feels like Detroit's almost like trying to scheme something up here, like something like they're cooking something up.
That's
here.
what the Eagles did, though. 1-year deal, and they ended up at the Super Bowl with C.J. And you mentioned the Lions had a good season. Their defense was trash, though. There was a point during Detroit's season where they had the number 1 scoring offense and they had the worst defense in the NFL.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they had a good season. It was just they had a lot of teams have been like that, though. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I think about just instantly. I mean, I think about, the Pittsburgh Steelers, back the last couple like years when they had the stellar offense with the killer bees, but their defense had nothing. Like, literally, their defense would have nothing, and we would lose to the Patriots every single year. Or the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was a really weird 45-42 final. It was the weirdest thing ever. But I was like, that's the point. Like, it's like, I feel like defenses are very key to winning championships. It doesn't have to be the only key factor. I mean, San Francisco had a stellar defense back in 2020 against Kansas City, and and I feel like they had a little bit of almost like a not as eventful offense, in my opinion. I mean, you had Deebo Samuel and stuff like that, and you had like a decent running back, and you had George Kittle still, but it wasn't like as notable as like a Patrick Mahomes when, you got Tyreek Hill and, and Travis Kelce and their stud running back at the time, who wasn't Kareem Hunt. It was somebody else that I can't think of right now, but you get the gist. So,
Jamal Charles. Are you still talking about the Chiefs?
Yeah, but 2020 Chiefs. Yeah.
Oh, 2020
2020.
Chiefs.
It wasn't Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles.
Yeah, I thought.
I don't know. It wouldn't have been.
No, it wasn't Kareem Hunt. It wouldn't have been Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Maybe. I mean, but I thought Helaire was hurt, so I don't know who it was. Maybe, but I don't know. He was good. He was good.
Well, he was a good player, but we can't remember his name. C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Lions. The Lions are saying best defense or best offense is a good defense because our defense sucked last year. But we have Aiden Hutchinson. He's young. We got Jeff Okudah if he can stay healthy. 3rd overall pick from 2020. We're gonna keep it up. We're gonna keep fighting. And MCDC is gonna keep cracking kneecaps up there in Detroit. So another big signing. Another guy who I was hoping the Bengals would go after. Then I was like, oh, shoot, he's probably too expensive. And then I was once again shown, nope. And this pretty much, what this told me is the Bengals are going after a tight end in the draft, I think. And Dalton Schultz, $9 million a year to the Texans, the other team in Texas. He was a Dallas Cowboy. Now Cowboys fans are trying to pretend like he was crap. He was the reason they lost, which granted he did make a mistake in the playoffs. I think he made 1 or 2 mistakes in the playoffs, which, that happens. Mistakes happen. Dalton Schultz is still a guy I really like. I think he's a talent at the tight end position. He's not a Travis Kelce, but he's also not going to be the reason you lose games normally. So I think $9 million a year is a good deal for him. I like it. Texans are making moves. They're trying to improve. They also signed Devin Singletary, $4 million a year. He used to be the starter up in Buffalo, and the Texans came up and they said, hey, we got a guy last year. We're going to bring in another guy. I don't know if Devin's going to be the starting back or not, but this means that the Bills have an open spot. And who did they go and sign? They went and signed their rival, former rival, Damian Harris, who was a Patriot. He's their Bills' new running back. Bills' main problem the last few years has been at the running back position. Damian Harris is hoping to improve that, maybe get a few more yards than Josh Allen so that Josh Allen isn't the rushing leader this year. We'll see what happens. They still got James Cook, Dalvin's younger brother, back there. We got all kinds of stuff that can happen. Isaiah McKenzie going to the Colts from the Bills. All these teams got together, and they're just moving everything. And then Dante Hightower is going to be retiring, 11 years with the Patriots. It's wild what's going on. NFL's a crazy place. I just threw a ton of stuff at you. What do you think about any of that? All of that? Do you need me to recap again?
Do I need you to recap? No, I feel like it would just make everything drag. So I don't think you need to go on another 2-minute thing when I can just double check. I mean, because it was the Texans, I think, obviously are making some moves. I think it's interesting. I mean, because the Texans didn't really have anything that iconic this season that really set them apart. Like, oh, they have this one stud player. Like, I feel like they just kind of all had like mid guys at the time. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, like, there's no like super iconic player in Houston right now. Like, there used to be like JJ Watt and stuff like that was always an icon, but he got traded to Arizona and then retired. So I think them signing Dalton Schultz is kind of a big thing. I mean, obviously it was only a 1-year deal, which is pretty interesting. Once again, another 1 year. And then Devin Singletary was only a 1-year deal as well. It's kind of interesting with those two players, but I definitely think Houston is trying to develop a team at least. But I think it's interesting that they only signed them for 1-year deals. In my opinion, just because, if Houston's trying to look long term, like it's different with Detroit, where like Detroit has a lot of the key pieces that they need. They just need like a couple 1-year signings to maybe have like a really good team this year to maybe make a playoff push. Like, I mean, because obviously they were 9-8 last season. I'm pretty sure. I mean, you could fact check me on that. I'm pretty sure they almost made playoffs with their solid 9-8 record. And I think it's just really interesting that, like, Houston didn't do anything. Like, they didn't even make it close to playoffs. Pretty sure they were one of the first teams eliminated from playoff contention. And for them to sign 1-year deals, I feel like is pretty bold, considering they don't even know what quarterback they're going to get, or what he's going to play like. I mean, like you still have, like, did they still have Davis Mills under contract?
Yeah, he's a 2021 rookie. He's gonna keep playing. I feel like they brought a quarterback in though. What quarterback did they bring in?
Did they bring in a backup?
No, I thought they signed someone, but now it's it just says Davis Mills and EJ Perry. For some reason, I thought Jimmy Garoppolo. No, Jimmy Garoppolo was with the Raiders. I don't know who I thought they brought in, but maybe Bryce Young.
Maybe, but the thing with it is, like, you would have to hope that Bryce Young is good enough to, start immediately because, I mean, even if you have, like, Devin Singletary and Dalton Schultz, Brandon Cooks was traded from Houston to go to Dallas, so I don't really know who the heck they have on wide receiver now. So, I mean, you're going to need some wide receivers. There's a lot that Houston needs, and I don't think that what are you knowing about? That's how you get like that.
They got John Mechie, who didn't play last year because of his cancer. I don't know if he's going to play this year, out of Alabama. They got Roberto Woods, Mr. Trees, Bobby Forrest.
Is his name? Are you talking about Robert Woods, or are you? Or is this Robert Woods? Okay, this isn't
Bobby
some
Trees.
Random. Because this isn't some random guy named Roberto Woods. Okay. Just whatever.
Roberto Woods, a.k.a. Bobby Trees. And then they got Nico Collins.
But I think they're average. Like, I think Nico Collins is average, and Robert Woods never really proved anything in Tennessee.
Bobby Trees.
So I'm hoping, they all do well. But I think Nico Collins is still relatively, new to the position. I mean, he's been in the league a couple years, but I don't think he's really been put into a position where he would be starting. So it'd be quite interesting. I mean, I still think Houston needs a wide receiver or a couple wide receivers. I mean, tight end, running back, cool. You got that figured out. But, like, what about your wide receivers? Who's Bryce Young? If they sign Bryce Young, who's he going to throw to other than Dalton Schultz? You can't just have him throw to Dalton Schultz every game. I mean, you could, I guess, but
Bobby Trees on one side, Dalton Schultz on the other.
So Dalton Schultz is going to start running fades. Okay, yes. That's really cool.
And then they got Devin Singletary coming in. Dameon Pierce, running back, he was good last year.
He wasn't bad. Wasn't bad.
He was a rookie last year. He had 939 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 30 receiving yards. Or he had 30 receptions, 165 receiving yards.
30 receiving yards. I was about to say, dang, that guy stinks for receiving. But
as a rookie, though,
that's solid rookie numbers, though.
Maybe we're just gonna run first. We're gonna pull the old Titans.
What about the Houston's defense? Like, what do they have on defense?
They do not have J.J. Watt.
Well, yeah,
I can tell you what they don't have.
They don't have a J.J. Watt. They don't have lots of players, I feel like.
Ooh, what about... So, we've been hearing, and this is another thing we can talk about, DeAndre Hopkins, maybe on the trade block. And I'm hoping that goes through before March 27th so I can figure out what I'm going to do with him in the mock draft for Joe. But does DeAndre Hopkins go back to Houston now that Mr. Bill O'Brien's gone? He's been away for a while. Maybe he wants to make a return.
No, I don't think so. I think DeAndre Hopkins at this point in his career really just wants to win a Super Bowl. I don't think he really cares about going back to the hometown that made him famous, because I don't think he cares. I think at this point he just wants a ring. Because I think at this point in a lot of players' careers, I don't think they care much about the money. I think they care more about rings.
Well, I'll tell you what. If he wants a ring, he should not sign with the New England Patriots, and they're the favorites. And I know that sounds like a weird sentence, because like New England and the Super Bowl were synonymous for so many years, but they got Mac Jones. They don't have Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers.
Mac Jones will probably overthrow the ball to DeAndre Hopkins somehow.
Well, you got Aaron Rodgers coming into the division. You've got Josh Allen in the division. The Bills have been a juggernaut for years. Jets coming up with, like I said, Aaron Rodgers. And then the Dolphins are also on their way up. Jalen Ramsey just went into that division. If I want a ring, I am not going to the Patriots. They're the underdogs right now.
I mean, maybe DeAndre Hopkins is thinking more about the money and playing and stuff rather than the ring. But I thought for the longest time he just seemed like the type of guy that at this point like just wanted that ring. Because I mean, he's older now. I mean, he's not like he used to be. I mean, him and I remember having Hopkins and Julio Jones on the same fantasy football team because they were both studs. And now Julio Jones is what is going on with Julio Jones? Where is he at right now?
Where's Julio Jones at?
Yeah, last time I checked, I'm pretty sure he was in Tampa. But what happened to Julio Jones? I got to know.
Let's play a fun game of where in the world is Julio Jones?
Yeah, it's like where's Waldo?
He is a free agent.
Sad.
He was last with Tampa.
Yes, I do remember that.
He went down to Tampa to play with Tommy Brady.
Tampa Brady years.
And let's see here. How many touchdowns did he have? How many touchdowns do you think he had?
2.
Did you Google that? That's exactly how many touchdowns he had.
Yeah.
He had all of 2. He also
how would
had,
I have Googled that?
299 yards. I don't know. That was just, you got it right away. As we get closer to the draft, our pieces are falling into place. We're starting to find out like maybe what teams actually need. Dante Hightower retiring from the Patriots. That's going to be a big hit. He's potentially a Hall of Famer. We can talk about that later. I don't think we have enough time to get into that right now. But
I mean, they already lost the other guy for New England. That other guy just retired because I'm seeing him all over my feed still. I can't think of his name. He's the free safety for the New England Patriots. Devin McCourty.
Devin McCourty?
Yeah, McCourty.
Jason's brother?
Yeah, he didn't he just retire? He left or he did something because he had a billboard out that was like, "Thanks for everything, New England." So
Yep, he was a safety for 13 seasons with the New England Patriots, but
yeah, he did retire this year. So I thought they're without Devin McCourty too.
Ooh. And Devin came out and he said something. He said some Patriots players wanted Bailey Zappi, some wanted Mac Jones. So Zappi hour might not be over. Mac Jones had better watch it.
It's interesting.
I know everyone was saying he was another one. He was going to be the second Tom Brady. I think he might be the second Drew Bledsoe. Bailey Zappi might be the second Tom Brady.
Okay.
History is repeating itself. Okay.
Happy. Yeah.
I just like his name. I think that's all. We kind of just. I thought you had a really great insight on Anthony Richardson. I thought that was very smart. So I'm gonna clip that. That's gonna be a little short.
I'm glad that you liked it.
I'm very proud.
He's very promising. So, but I think it's a bum pick as of right now. But maybe he will surprise. Because I remember when we were talking on the Jets cast with Stan on last Monday, I called him a bum and I thought he was bad. But I wanted to reiterate that I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's NFL ready as of this point, but maybe he'll surprise. I always like to say, and I've said it since I've been here, I hope that they prove me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. I love to say that.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm going to go into my spiel now, though. I'm also going to hype up the merch because the merch is awesome. I got some of the merch.
I know you did. I know you got a tank top, so that's fun.
Yeah, so Yeah, so thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed our conversation, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Buts Show. Our social media pages are NoButs_show on Instagram and No Buts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. And if you would like to reach us, what is that? What?
They're crackers.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't have to eat them, but
for the people who aren't on YouTube, Chus was holding something up to the camera. Okay,
they're crackers.
If you would like to, again, my Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001, and if you would like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoosepodcast2. It's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop where you can buy all the merch. I just got some merch. There's a 20% off deal going right now. I got a sticker, and the sticker looks really cool. It's on the back of my laptop, which I'm recording on right now, so I can't show you. And then I worked out in the tank top yesterday. It was super comfortable. I got one that said, God is great, beer is good, football's fun, and Chus is toxic, because it's true. If you believe those things, that tank top's for you. There's also stuff that says, let somebody cook. Chus likes to yell that. It's true. Got to let somebody cook. We're tired of this plug and play with the quarterbacks going on. The spread shop link will be in the description, so make sure to check out some of that merch. We got those 2 designs out there on all kinds of different stuff. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, go do something nice for somebody else.